I was sorely disappointed with Battlefield 5. The single player campaign was short, boring, and unmemorable. It didn't feel like Battlefield. It didn't even feel like Call of Duty. It was just there to say it was there. But another reason I was disappointed was because the previous Battlefield game did it so well. The beginning of Battlefield 1, in my opinion, is a high point for the series. I rate it up there with the intro scene for Battlefield 1 as being something that makes me proud to be a gamer and excited for what comes next. It's important to get the feel of the experience right. Many games seem to struggle with this. Of course it has to be an enjoyable game, but it also has to remain respectful to the source material, especially when it's something as sensitive as World War I. But Battlefield 1 manages all of this in style, accompanied with a sense of scale, foreboding, and a thrill that I felt was sorely missing from its sequel. The first playable section perfectly encapsulates the best of the Battlefield series. Before it even begins, it puts a dampener on the whole thing, telling you that you are not expected to survive. You're placed in the middle of a battlefield somewhere, the whistle blows, and out of the smoke charges countless enemies. You shoot, people die. It gets messy. Inevitably you run out of ammo and have to frantically scour the place for a replacement weapon. Maybe you have to kill someone with your spade. All around you, teammates are falling. Since everything's a shade of brown, maybe you accidentally mistake one for the enemy. Then a flamethrower dude comes out of nowhere and utterly wrecks you. And then you're dead. As quickly as it was over, it starts again somewhere else and in a different body, and the same story repeats itself again and again. The Battlefield series has always treated people as extra lives for the player. There's no consequence to their deaths other than to bring your side closer to defeat. But the simple act of showing a name and a date of birth and death every time you die is enough to hint that there were perhaps more than just spare lives for the player to inhabit. Maybe with their death, more was lost than just a number on the scoreboard. It's not told in a heavy-handed manner. It doesn't dwell. It just makes you feel a bit responsible for their death before it starts the same story all over again somewhere else on the battlefield. It perfectly sets the scene, gives you a taste of the action without a fear of a game over screen, and it feels like the Battlefield series, while telling a powerful story for the single-player format. While in a seemingly indestructible tank, you see enemies who aren't interested in fighting. Maybe they're injured, or wandering away from the action like ghosts, oblivious to the atrocities going on around them. Even the main character seems confused and disgusted by what he sees. It nicely ends with him meeting somebody on the other team who's equally bewildered and unwilling to participate. It's a different take on combat in video games, and is enough to make me feel bad for playing this game to shoot people. Almost. The first proper level of the campaign is equally impactful. New to the game, you're conveniently put in the shoes of a newbie soldier whose job it is to drive a tank and its hardened, grizzled crew into enemy lines. But it's not just any tank. She's Bessie, and she doesn't like it when you swear. And also there's a pigeon on board that some of the tank crew seem to hate. It's the butt of jokes. At one point somebody suggests it could do with a drink. That first level sees you trundling across a very brown and very destructible landscape, destroying enemy outposts and mowing down dozens of soldiers as you go. Back then, tanks were overpowered, and this level shows that nicely. And I wanted to do well. If I didn't, I'd see enemies engage in one-on-one duels with people from my side, at which point I would be powerless to intervene and would feel wholly responsible if they died as a result. I may have been new to this game, but I felt the need to push ahead of the rest and to defend my side from the Germans, like it was my responsibility to do so. Eventually, your tank gets stuck in the mud and Germans pile on top of it. But then the game takes an unexpected turn. In one of the more moving cutscenes of my life, the crew of the tank desperately defends themselves from a swarming German force. Your friends are dying, and your character gets dazed by a deafening gunshot. And then, suddenly, the carnage subsides and there's an unexpected peace as the Pigeon takes centre stage. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do you get taken over by the Germans, or do you risk friendly artillery on your position? There's almost a touch of comedy to these scenes as the battle-hardened old commander seriously orders that you release the Pigeon, like that's going to save you. But the way it's all done never oversteps the mark, and as such only builds on the impact of it all. And at the time, you won't see the comedy, as in that instant, the light-hearted, joke-ridden inclusion of that Pigeon turns super serious, as unspeakable pressure is put on that innocent little creature to do its job. It finally treads so many different emotions, but it pulls it off beautifully and with a grace very few scenes manage to achieve. And then the Pigeon is released, and you command it as it peacefully flies over the carnage below. It is such a moving moment, in part because it came from such unexpected elements, and it's a much needed break from the otherwise endless war that is raging below. The music in these beginning scenes is brilliant throughout, but during this flight, I reached new levels of appreciation for it. This peaceful passage back across the level is a welcome respite from the devastation you plough through to reach this point. Eventually, the Pigeon gets back to base, whereupon they artillery your tank's position. To be continued. In my opinion, this is among the strongest starts to any game ever. I am pleased it is in something as mainstream as Battlefield, rather than to be hidden away in some indie title that most people won't get to experience. Browsing the comments on YouTube videos about it, it's lovely to see so many people who were as affected by these scenes as I was. Like I said, it's the sort of thing that makes me proud to be a gamer. With Call of Duty moving away from single player at the time, it felt like Battlefield 1 had something to prove by producing some of the finest single player material out there. Battlefield 5 got too emotional and soppy for me, but Battlefield 1 drove the horror of war home and was the perfect intro to the game's campaigns. But with repeat playings, the limitations of the scenes become apparent. Survive for long enough anywhere in the intro and you're rewarded with an artillery strike that comes along and wipes you out anyway. While commanding the tank, once you realise you can't run over or blow up your own team, you inevitably adopt a danker, more carefree attitude to the experience, which can often make the tank section sillier than it was trying to be. And that pigeon flying scene is marred by awful controls, making what should be a graceful flight more like a drunk drive simulation, as the Pigeon goes full stunt plane mode across the battlefield with the elegance of me on a stripper pole on a Saturday night. Maybe one of the crew did slip it a shot of something, after all. And I don't think my Pigeon ever really made it back to HQ. Feels more like mine took to the hills and left the tank crew to their doom. Stupid Pigeon.